If you own a computer or if you own a smartphone, whether it's iPhone or Android, if it's Android, I feel bad for you. But you've probably seen some headlines on the internet this last weekend. They involve Mike Munchak and maybe returning to the Steelers. What's it about? Could it happen? Why is it coming out right now? All that and more on this edition of Big Deke News. So a little bit on Mike Munchak if you already didn't know who he is. Well, to put it simply, he's a great offensive line coach. Actually coached the Steelers O-line for 5 years from 2014 to 2018, and I don't think it's a coincidence that they probably had their most success as an offensive line unit since who knows when. And he just so happened to be a Hall of Fame player in his own right for the Houston Oilers, making all-decade teams, all-pros and whatnot. So, yeah, he knows a little thing or two about football. With that being said, what's the deal? Why isn't Munchak the Steelers' offensive line coach? Because when he left the Steelers in 2018, he went to go coach with the Denver Broncos. But this past offseason, his contract ran out and he became a free agent. It just so happened as well, the Steelers had an offensive line coach vacancy. So what is the deal there? Why did they elect to go with Pat Meyer? And instead of speculating, we actually have a definitive answer because Mike Munchak did an interview with 93.7 The Fan just a few days ago. Here's what he had to say. When asked about a return, specifically about this last offseason, said, "We talk. That's one of those things I really don't want to talk about. I was more at the time trying to stay in Denver, out west. It's something we never really discussed because as much as I loved Coach Tomlin, there's no better head coach in football as a player to work for or as a coach to work for. I learned so much from him and the Rooneys and the way they run their organization. For me, that was a great learning experience. I learned a lot from my years there." Goes on to say again, at the time I was trying to stay out west. It was not something I was considering at the time when they may or may not have had an opening. I was 100% focused at trying to stay out in this part of the country. It didn't quite work out this year for that to happen. Then you got to wonder, could he just be done coaching and wants to hang it up? But then he says, "I love the game too much. I'd love to continue to work, especially offensive line coaches. It's something I love doing. I love teaching. Hopefully, if the right opportunity comes up this year or next year, whenever, I would continue to coach." So listen, I want Munchak back probably as bad as the next person because that offensive line from 2014 to 2018 was the best I've ever seen. But right now, nothing's going to change because you heard Munchak. He's pretty focused on staying out on the West Coast. And we just hired a guy this offseason in Pat Meyer, who's had success in the NFL. He's not on Mike Munchak's level, but let's give him a chance. And I don't really know how long his contract is, though, either. Is it for a year? Is it for 2 years? Because if you Google search it, you really can't find anything. I'm going to assume it's short term. So let's see how the offensive line looks this year. How does Pat Meyer do? And then we can reevaluate. Because is Mike Munchak even going to be around? Is he going to want to come out to the East Coast? Because it does seem he's pretty locked in to staying out West Coast and being around family. So for right now, there really isn't too much to the story because he's definitely not coming here this year. That would have to happen next offseason. And if we're even talking about Munchak coming back, that probably means the offensive line sucked and Pat Meyer's out, which is something we can't afford to have happen this upcoming season. So let's not even think about it or worry about it right now. That is it for Big Deke News. Let me know what you guys think about the Mike Munchak situation down in the comments. Stay chillin' and peace.